Hey people, welcome to sunny Edinburgh, where I have been playing about and created a new profile to use with the new Ecamm Live and Zoom integration. So super powerful tool, and I thought it'd be great to have some different looking surrounds for your images within a Zoom meeting so that you can really up your game. So I'm going to show you through some of that right now. I'm just going to go make myself invisible first of all, so I'm not on every single scene, and then I will jump into live demo mode. But before I do, just in case you don't know what a profile is, a profile contains all of the elements you need to run a show. So everything that you create normally when you're putting together an Ecamm show can be downloaded into a single profile. You can go and get that from my store, which is streamprofiles.sellfy.store, and you can get it for free, and I will put a link down in the description. Once you've downloaded that file for free, you will be put onto my mailing list, but you can come off at any time that you want to. The file will come in and you will be able to use just one click on that file and it will upload it into Ecamm. But before you do that, store the file somewhere safe. So perhaps put it into a safe folder on your computer, or put it on an external hard drive if that's the way you prefer to store your Ecamm assets. If you just leave it on your desktop or in the downloads folder, then it might disappear up to the cloud. So you don't want it to do that. You want Ecamm to know where to look for everything and it always to be in the right place. So the first thing to do once you've got access to the file is to store it somewhere carefully. Once you've stored it in your favorite place, then just go click on it with Ecamm open and it will load that profile straight up. And you're going to find within that profile there's in fact 34 different scenes. They're actually made up of 2 designs, so each set of designs is about 17 scenes each, and it runs through from you being a solo host, right through to having 9 guests on your scene with active placeholders for the person who's speaking. So all sorts of different things in there, and also 10 standard different backgrounds that you're going to be able to add blur and color to, plus the ability to put your own block background in or your own background of your own design. So you can do all of that with these profiles. Everything is set up for you, all the cameras are in place, and they're really simple to use. The golden rule is if something is locked, just don't change it, just leave it as it is. Don't be overwhelmed by the amount of folders and things that are in there. You just don't have to touch the stuff that's in the background. It's as simple as that. I've done all the design work for you. So with that being said, I'm going to pause the video for a second and I'm going to switch my camera off, and then I'm going to come back in live demo mode. So see you in a moment. Okay, so here I am in live demo mode, and before I go any further, I should also say this isn't a lesson in how to use Ecamm Live and Zoom together. This is just me walking you through the profile. There are loads and loads of great tutorials on Zoom and Ecamm Live, so go watch those in terms of how do you use this with Zoom. Once you go live, there are much better experts than me on actually using Zoom. I spend more time in Ecamm Live. So this is what your profile is going to look like when you download it, and it's got lots of designs in it and lots of scenes. So there's two designs, 1, 2, and each one of these designs has got a whole set of different scenes set from just you solo through to all of these other ones. So I may as well just flick through a couple of these. Host and comments, the screen share one, which we've already looked at, and all the way through to having just individual guests with comments coming in, and with this one's got comments. Let's bring in some comments there. Oh, I think I've got a comment placeholder in here. So these are the sort of things that are in there, all the way through to lots of guests with an active speaker there on the right hand side, so as soon as guest 1, 2 or 3 talk, then they'll be highlighted and brought into the bigger box. So that's totally intentional. They'll still stay on the screen but in the smaller box, but there'll also be a duplicate version of them in the active speaker box there. So you can go change any of these placeholders for the cameras if you really want to. So you could remove the active speaker and put another different guest in there if that's what you wanted to do. But here you can see some of the different layouts. I've intentionally made them with a variety of different sizes of guests going on, just for variety and to show you that you can do something different within Zoom. So this definitely does not look like your standard Zoom windows, does it? But I can go make loads of different changes. We'll come and have a look at design 2 in a moment, but let's just ping that up there to shrivel it up a little bit so that you can see what's in the overlay section. So in the overlay section you have got a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, so this is what is in this particularly complicated scene here. So this one is only complicated because there's lots of guests in it. So if I chose a much simpler scene, we'd have a lot less in there. But we've got everything neatly laid out, so the host and the camera and the frame. So in each case there's a frame in the background. Don't touch the frame in the background, don't touch the camera layout, they're locked for a reason. I've spent ages lining them all up nicely, so don't go moving those about, just leave them as they are. And you might want to go in and add in some names, and I'll maybe come back to that at the end, the best way to do that. But really you don't have to change anything, you're just going to allocate your Zoom guests to guest 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. and they're going to automatically pop into the scene. So this is a very complicated scene, as I say. But at the bottom of it you're going to find there's a whole load of backgrounds and things you can choose from, and I'm going to leave it on this one just because it's going to show dramatically what the differences are in the background. So just here I've got blur and tint. So these two elements in the background allow me to change any one of the backgrounds using blur and tint. So if I turn blur off, because it's on at the moment, you'll notice that the lines have all become a lot straighter in the background on this particular scene. So put it back on again because I think I prefer a bit of blur on this one. But I can also change color tint as well. So if I bring up the color tint, let's find out where that's going to appear. It's going from pink to blue at the moment. I can change that. Colors might jump off the screen here. Yeah, they will. So I'm not going to change it at the moment because the colours have jumped off the screen and I'll have to scroll back out. But trust me, you can either fill that with a gradient or a solid colour. So in fact, why don't I do that? Change that to solid colour, and you'll see that that's gone far more pinky. So if I come back to the gradient as well, what you can do with the gradient, you can move the gradient around in the background as well. So that's just changing the angle of the gradient. And in here, if I just wanted this to be a solid colour block, I could just choose colour and just have this as my background rather than putting in the fancy background. So there's quite a lot you can do there, and you can come into this colour tint and this blur for every single one of the backgrounds, or indeed your own background, to have a play about with and just to change the way that they look and feel. You could even come down and change the blend mode down here, and that will have some dramatic effects as well, but it can have some dramatically bad effects also. So that's my colour tint block. I'm just going to turn that one off for the moment. I'm going to turn the blur off for the moment, and I'm going to show you through a couple of the other backgrounds that we've got going on here. So and the effect of bringing the blur in and out. So if I bring on this one here, this is stream number 1, quite a nice looking background. Now bear in mind that most of the background is going to be covered up by your camera, so you're only going to be seeing little bits of these backgrounds. So in this particular case, if I wanted to blur that one, that's going to look quite nice with a blur on it. It tends to make things stand out a little bit more with a blur. As you'll see a bit later on, some of them you don't want to put a blur on, but that one I might want to, and again I can bring in my colour tint and it's going to change the background in line with my pinky colours that I had before. So we'll take those back off again, and we will turn off stream number 1, and we're going to bring in business 2, kind of quite like that one, or business 40 I should say. I'll hide that one. Another different one with spheres in the background. That one again, I think I would probably put a bit of blur in the background. But all of these you can go literally play about with to your heart's content. So turn that back off and we'll have a look at the next one down. And I've intentionally chosen some quite dramatically different ones in different places. So turn the spheres off and we bring in this business one, and this one does change dramatically if I change the colouring around. But let's just hide that and bring that back on. Hide that, bring that back on, and any colour that I choose, because it's black and white, will dramatically change if I choose that colour tint block there to play about with. Other ones that we have in the background, let's have a look and see what else there is. It's a nice sort of connected dots one, which I thought might be quite good for sort of communications, for want of a better description. Then we've got something like this one here, which is a pod in the background, which looks pretty cool. And I think again I could put a bit of blur on that, and I can move the blur up and down as well to dictate exactly how much or how little blur I want in the background. So I could play about with that one to get that nice effect in the background, all quite spacey, I guess. So let's have a look at a couple more, because there's quite a few in here. We'll turn that pod off, we'll turn the blur on, let's turn the blur off. So that's just your standard black background going on at the moment. And let's bring in this one here, which is our dots again. And then we'll have a look at this one down here, which was my take on Pride, or the Pride flag. And again, I think I would probably blur that one. So there's a bit of a blur going on there. So let's turn the blur back off again, because there's another one down here which I thought looked quite interesting. And this is kind of a denim type effect. So all of these you can have in the background and choose your own one. If you want to choose one of these ones or add in your own one, you can just drag and drop it into show in background, and that's going to populate through any of the designs above. So let's make that one a bit smaller again for the overlays, because we've kind of finished looking at that particular little bit. And I'll run you through some of the design number 2, which is very much like design number 1, but just has a thin frame around it. So this got a thin frame to give that effect of a slight bevel going on with the frame itself. And you could, if you wanted to, come in, so you can see there's only 2 items in there, the camera and the frame, and you could go in and change the colour of that frame if you really want to. I would advise that you keep it a darkish colour, because it's going to look that much better. It's just more effective with that bevel look. So we'll run down these just so you can see what this one looks like when I put in the different elements. So I'm going to go through all of these different scenes. They're all in there. So if you were putting together a particular show, the first thing you would do with this profile is make a duplicate copy. So you make a duplicate copy so that you can go and mess it up as much as you like. You then come into the duplicate copy and say, hey, on today's show I've only got 2 guests, so actually I'm going to get rid of all the other scenes that don't just have 2 guests in. So you can just go down and literally delete all the scenes that have more than 2 guests in, so that you haven't got millions of guests sitting there. And you can choose between design 1 and design 2. And of course you can make duplicates of these scenes, and if you decide that where I've got guest 1 there, that you don't want the guest 1 there, you're going to put in perhaps a little video in that screen. You could do that, or a mini website, or put that in the big area there as well. So the layout is totally up to you. You don't have to have the cameras where I've put cameras. You can put whatever you want into those spaces. It's just neatly laid out for you, so that you don't have to worry about whether all of these frames are sitting in the right places or not. So this is me just running down a couple of the other ones and taking you through right through to the bottom. So you would make your own run of show by just taking a copy of the scene and moving them around. And because things are actually in folders as well, if you really are confident, and this will be up to you, by the way, the comments sometimes disappear, so look under comments and maybe unhide the comment placeholder to bring that in, and with Ecamm you drag and drop your comment into there and it should stay the same size. My experience is it doesn't always, and you might need to just resize it first time round, and then it will come in the right size. But as I say, you can go choose the different folders and elements within that folder, and because they're all grouped together, if I wanted to create a brand new scene, for instance with these guests in but something else on instead, so this is sort of nicely laid out 2x2 guests. If I wanted to take those, then I could come down and just take my folders with guests in and hosts in, and then get rid of this element in the middle totally if I wanted to, and put something entirely different there. Or I could come to where the screen share currently is, get rid of the screen share and drop in a video or a web widget or whatever else I wanted to in that area. So completely flexible, everything laid out for you. You don't have to think about where things are going to go. They're all in there and you can go have a play about. Golden rule, as I say, don't mess around with the background in terms of the frames and the camera layouts, because they've all been carefully laid out to match up nicely and line up nicely, and believe me, that can take a long time to do. So hopefully you'll have good fun playing about with this profile and adapting it to your own needs by either changing the backgrounds I put in or putting your own ones in there. So it really is as simple as that. Now, the last thing I was going to mention was names. So if I was on a profile and I'd got a whole bunch of names, so let's just go back up to this and say, let's say I've got 3 guests. So the host and 3 guests. Generally, when you want to put in your names, you obviously add in a name placeholder. But what you really want to do in terms of making life easy for yourself is to perhaps go down here and create a folder. So I'm going to create a folder here and I'm going to call it names. If I can spell. So call the folder names, and then within that folder I could start to add in my text overlays. So if I can lean around my folder, my microphone there, so it's added in my name in here, and I can put my name where I want it to be. If I want names on here, obviously I don't want a name on the active speaker, that's for sure. And let me just take that there, and I will duplicate it, or at least I would do if I could see it. Command C, Command V, Command V. So I'm just going to take 3 copies of my own name, and I am going to place them all in different locations if that's where I want them to be. Rather large, I might want to make these ones a bit smaller, I think, for the smaller guests. So let's make these a bit smaller. And I would obviously then change my names in here. To be whatever my names are going to be. Edit text, Martin. So I've now got my 3 names there. I'm going to take those 3 names and I'm going to drop them into the names folder, leaving the names folder at the top of the scene. And that way I know that the names are always going to appear above the cameras, which is what I want. So if I then had another scene with 3 guests on it, what I could do is I could take that folder, do Command C on the folder, and if I said this one's got host and 3 guests plus comments, so I could come back to this one, which has got the 3 guests. Actually, it should be 2 guests, was it? Yeah, because one was an active speaker. So let's go to one with 2 guests. Let's go 2 guests and screen share is fine. So what I could do here is come into this particular scene here. I'm going to get rid of Neil Pheromone sharing because that's the wrong window. So that was an earlier experiment. I'm going to paste the folder for names in there and move it up to the top, and I can then go in, instead of having to type in names in every single time, I've already got my names in here, so I can get those names and I can just drop them in to the appropriate location. Now believe me, that is going to save you a ton of time, because otherwise you're going to have to go into every single scene and change the names until such times as Ken and Glenn come up with a name placeholder, which I'm hoping they will do at some point. But that's my last little tip for today, and hopefully I've covered everything, but I'm bound to have missed something, so I might well be back and doing another little tweak to this recording, because I think I noticed one of my frames wasn't quite lined up. Anyway, see you later. Bye from Edinburgh. Cheerio.